What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Trust the Profits YouTube page. My name is Colin Sheehan. This is Doubling Down, and I would like to wish all of those 2-year-olds a happy birthday. They all turn 3 on January 1st, and of course, that is for all horses. All horses' birthday is January 1st. Happy New Year to all of you. Before we break into this week's Daily Double, we have the question of the day. Who do you think should win the Eclipse Award for 3-year-old male of 2022? Welcome back to Doubling Down with Colin Sheehan. I am joined by my good friend Matt DeSantis at Fail to Menace on Twitter. Matt, how we doing?
Doing great. And we're not going to launch into my opinion on that question that you just posed, or else we could be here for a little while. But that's a good question that sparked a lot of controversy. Excited to be here and excited to talk about this great sequence that you have lined up at Gulfstream Park this weekend.
Yes, please add your answers to that question in the comments, and please like and subscribe so you get the notifications of all the great stuff we're doing here on Trust the Profits YouTube page. Matt has some tremendous content in his Win Place show, and capping the card, which he was on fire last weekend, which is why he's here. And the reason he's here is because my guests have just been in a free fall, and they've been taking me with them, and we need to change things here. I've been in the green for all 17 episodes. And because I think what I was doing was I was getting in the heads of the guests when they saw this big red number. So what I've decided to do is to make it fair. I split it all up, and I spent my whole day today figuring out every person that's been on the show and how they've been doing. And you can see you don't have a tough act to follow, because most of them here have been in the red, except for El Hombre, who came on and did a live show with me, and we both hit.
Oh, fantastic.
On that day, on the $28
nice.
Daily Double. So that was very exciting. So we are going to Gulfstream. What a weekend of racing we have. Mm-hmm. And we decided to look at race 7 and 8. I try to find races that are intriguing, because the Daily Double, if you have a most likely single, it's going to be tough to make some money off of that, especially when we're taping the show. Don't know what the probables will be. It just makes it harder. And I was originally going to do race 9, which had Colonel Liam in it, and I texted you and you said, I think we should go to race 7 and 8. So
I think so, yeah.
I'm a man of my guests and of the people. So Gulfstream, Saturday, December 31st, race 7 and race number 8. We have the Suwannee River Stakes, and who last year Sweet Melania won this race. This race gives the winner an invitation to the Pegasus Filly and Mare Turf. So that's some interesting. Regal Glory was the one that won that race last year. Didn't run in this race. Sweet Melania did. We have a field of 10 with what to me appears to be a lot of speed, but also a wide open race. Do you agree?
Yeah, very much so. There is a lot of speed and a lot of horses that have speed at different distances. You have some horses that are traditional sprinters that are going to flash speed, and then you have horses that are milers or more that also have traditionally gone on the lead, but I don't think they necessarily have the speed to compete with a horse like Baystorm, for instance, who is a much more of a pure sprinter. And I think that could cause some issues for horses. I'll just kind of talk about one. Stolen Holiday, for instance, is a horse that has never won when not on the lead at routing. And so I just don't think this horse is going to get to the lead because of horses like Baystorm. So it's a very fascinating race, though, because there's a lot of dynamics going on here. And I think you could make a case for 5 or 6 horses. But what we try to do is, of course, always provide economical tickets. I know that's something you really believe in, Colin. And so you have to kind of draw a line in the sand at some point and go, I am not going to go any deeper in this particular race than here.
And so I'll bring up the tickets. I like to let people kind of get a sense of where we're leading towards as we start to go through, rather than surprise them at the end. So you can take our ticket and shut off the show now if you want, but you need to listen to this. You need to listen to this important breakdown that we have. I love to see overlap when me and my guest agree, because it means that we can both win. And it also means that I know that my guests are usually smarter than me. So I think I'm on to something here. And where I have gone with is the 1-7-10 in race number 8 of this. My graphics wrong there. This is actually race 7 and 8. Sorry, the graphic says race 8 and 9. This is race 7 and 8. So in race 7, I do like the 7 Stolen Holiday, a grade 3 winner on my birthday, I'll add, on June 18th. Lamista was in that race, came back to win a grade 3. Fluffy Socks was in that race, came back to run second in a grade 2 at the Spa. Distance is certainly not an issue. I'm hoping that I'll get a good price on Stolen Holiday. Seems like you're against because of the pace, though.
Yeah, I don't know if this horse can rate routing, and I think that's an issue. If you look at that the June 18th race you mentioned at Monmouth, that was wired the field going a mile and a 16th. You look back at the February 23rd race at Tampa, wired the field. You look back at the maiden victory at Tampa, also a mile and a 16th, wired the field. The only race this horse has won not wiring the field was actually a 6 furlong sprint that was an allowance. So I just don't know if the pace is going to set up, and the dynamics of this race is going to set up well for the 7. Certainly, Shug McGahee second off the layoff is an angle I always love to use. So there's a lot I like, and I will be honest with you, this was the last horse off of my ticket. I made kind of a last second switch. I was on Stolen Holiday, decided to take this one off and go a little deeper in the next race.
Okay, that doesn't make me feel terrible, but we both like the 1 Scottish Star. This horse had 2 wins in Argentina, who we all know Argentina they're still partying from a couple weeks ago, so they're going to miss out on Scottish Star racing this weekend. But I actually noticed somewhere I read that the races that this horse won in Argentina, both by 7 lengths, had the media going crazy down there saying, wow, what impressive races. The horse comes to the United States under Richard Mandela, runs on the dirt 3 times before moving to the Pletcher barn, who puts him on the turf, and he wins immediately up at Saratoga. Set the pace in the last race out at Keeneland and gets nailed. I like that Saez stays aboard. Saez had a lot of options in this race, and kind of gives me the nod of where he's going. And Pletcher says that this horse, his style suits him at Gulfstream. So the 1 Scottish Star is one that we both agree on.
Yeah, absolutely. For all the reasons you outlined, this horse has a little bit of versatility too. That first race on the turf, really let another horse go out well ahead and was able to come from off the pace. Last time tried to route. I have a feeling this horse is a pure miler, because if you notice that last race out, mile and a 16th, faded a little bit late, finishing second. And one thing I always talk about is milers are very unique creatures in that they are, you move them a 1/2 furlong up or a 1/2 furlong down, and it all falls apart. You keep them at a mile, they seem to just be able to nail that distance. And so I have a feeling Scottish Star is just a pure turf miler. And I think Pletcher's got a real good one here off the layoff. Great stats. So a lot to like there, I think, with Scottish Star. And I also like the fact that Saez stays aboard here, because you're right, he did have a few other options.
And what do you like about number 10, Lady Rockstar?
Yeah, Lady Rockstar is coming off a little bit of a layoff, actually pretty significant layoffs. Last time ran at Monmouth on July 23rd, but it's a horse that just has a lot of class. Obviously the sire was Frankel, and so just impeccably bred for the Brendan Walsh barn. Started its career over in Europe in the William Haggis barn. Haggis is a phenomenal trainer over there, very well respected, has a really great barn. So this horse was well regarded and was being well trained over there. Then comes over to Brendan Walsh's barn, wins first 2 times out in North America, at Churchill and at Belmont, wins over multiple different types of surfaces. And then last time out of the grade 3, finishes 5th. But again, Lamista, Fluffy Socks, Vigilante's Way, who was a next out winner. You had that was a nice field. I like that they're actually cutting back a little bit in distance to a mile off the layoff, so they're not going that 1 1/4, 1 1/8. So I like that a little bit. I think this horse also has that versatility to sit behind that pace that I think is going to be, burning up some horses up front maybe, or who are going to be a little close. This horse has a nice turn of foot. I like this horse in particular. The Brendan Walsh barn seems to be heating up. They're a very streaky barn. And so when he's on, though, he's really, really good. I mean, that barn can roll up a lot of wins really quick. And so he had a good weekend last weekend. And I think this is a very live horse coming off the layoff.
Yep. And the only other comment I'll add is going by Brisnet. This is a pace play as well for me. On the Brisnet's designated figures, everyone was early pace except for this horse, who was designated the P, a P2. So that's a kind of a horse I have to throw in if, as we said, the pace does get really hot up there and they kind of burn each other out. And this is the one that hopefully maybe picks up the pieces. You're going to be mad if the 7 wins. I just looked at your ticket. I realized if the 5 wins, I'm going to be mad because the 5 was the horse that I cut off the end of my ticket, Kahiko. The reason I took this horse off was basically the no work since the December 2nd race. So hasn't worked at all. Race December 2nd. And why don't you tell me when I'm making a mistake here? Because I don't want to kick myself.
Well, I think Kiko's it's an interesting horse. This is a little bit of a horse for a course play, a little bit of a distance play as well. This is a horse that's 4 for 10, winning at the mile distance. Ultimately, typically fires every single time at that distance, 7 for 10 in the money. Likes the turf at Gulfstream Park, 5 wins in 12 career races, 8 wins, 8 times out of 12 in the money. Also, if you look, this horse, the reason I like this horse is this is a horse that has that kind of muddied running line where the horse is running on Tapeta, the horse is running on turf, the horse is running on Tapeta, the horse is running on turf, the horse has a layoff, the horse runs on Tapeta. There's a lot going on. But if you just kind of zero in on the turf, the last 4 times out on the turf, this horse goes, and from a buyer speed figure standpoint, 79, 82, 85, 89. You see the solid progression on the turf from the buyer speed figures. Those 4 races, there was a first, a second, a fourth by 2 lengths in a state restricted stakes race, and then a win last time out. I like Sweezy a lot as a trainer down there. I just think this is a horse that I think they're probably delicate with this horse because he's had so many stops and starts with his running, and so or with her running, I should say. And so I think that's probably why you don't see the works quite as much there. But I just have a feeling this horse is sitting on a big race and will probably give you a really big price and didn't want this to be excluded from my ticket.
He's winning. She's winning. I know it now. I know it. You just named like the angle I love, which is going through those messy lines and finding, what matches up with today. And I missed that. So I'm not going to change my ticket, but she's winning. One last note, the number 2, Diamond Wow. The Pollock Report had a good write-up on this horse recently. This horse was pointed to the Breeders' Cup last year before getting sick. Then was pointed toward the Queen Elizabeth at Keeneland and got sick again. Rosario's up. Horse has shown some steady works. There's just a little bit of a wild card of, I'm dealing with some mucus right now. So hopefully the 2 Diamond Wow is in as well. So
yeah, I wasn't sure about this horse. Being Cone has just been firing off bullets for this horse to get her ready. I don't necessarily love that, especially with all the speed that's going to be in this race. A lot of times when you start bullet working, it means they're really going to go. And I'm worried if she goes, and her previous speed figures just aren't quite there with the rest of the field. So next time out, I'm very interested. But Rosario up would definitely caught my eye, but just didn't want to include her this time around.
I updated the graphic live while we're doing the show here. Nothing easy to sneeze at for those that don't know. But
you are versatile.
Leg 1, I go 1-7-10. Matt goes 1-5-10. Leg 2 is race 8, the grade 3 Mr. Prospector. We have a field of 12, including 5 3-year-olds, including number 4, Papa Cap. Maybe you remember this horse from the early Derby Trail last year, who took a lot of money in the Lecomte Stakes. I'll always remember Papa Cap because I knew he wasn't winning the Lecomte, and did not, getting caught by Call Me Midnight at the wire, I believe, out of that Kentucky Jockey Club. And I've never picked Papa Cap, but there's always a first for something. Papa Cap is the one horse, if you look at the past performances in this race, he's the one running against grade 1 or running in grade 1 and grade 2s, and the only one just always running in grade 1 and grade 2s. Now, of course, you can look at the company in those races, but respectable. There's Jack Christopher, Epicenter, Guadabario, Goodnight. So I definitely like Papa Cap on my ticket, and I see you do as well.
Absolutely. No, for the reasons you listed, the horse has a lot of class. I made a lot of money with this horse playing him underneath Jack Christopher and exactas. And so I just like this horse a lot because this horse has versatility to sit. And we talked about the pace issues in the last race. There's going to be a hot pace in this race too, if everybody's going to want to go. And I think Papa Cap can kind of sit off a little bit, sit off that pace and work out a really nice trip. So I like that quite a bit for this horse. I've always been a big fan of this horse, and I just think coming off the layoff, it shouldn't be an issue. I will also say, much like I talked about the Brendan Walsh barn being on fire, Mark Cassie's barn has been turning out some winners in big spots recently. And so his barn's been firing off a lot of winners too recently. So I like Papa Cap quite a bit right here. I very, very good horse.
And check out the press box on Twitter. He has a website. I just read an article that he wrote and did a great job on that. And he had some information from Mark Cassie on Papa Cap, both explaining the last race when he finished fourth in the Amsterdam, 7 lengths behind. He said that Papa Cap got hit in the eye with something during that race to the point where he couldn't open his eye after the race. So they decided at that point to shut him down. And the maturity he's seen, because that race was in July. And remember, these are 3-year-olds, 2-year-olds, maturity midsummer to fall is great, but 3-year-olds early in the season to the end of the year is it's like, I don't know how many years it is. Like it's like 7 years for a dog,
like
right?
Dog years. Yeah.
How many years is it for a horse? I don't know, but it's a lot. All right.
Yeah,
and so he said that he has done really great and he's found a nice spot for him to run. So those are words that I like to hear from a trainer on a horse. I don't think you should leave Papa Cap off your ticket in this race. Where else did you go?
Yeah, so I went with so one of the things I thought the pace is going to be an issue here because I think that there's a lot of horses that want the lead. Now, if you were talking about a 6.5 furlong sprint, okay, like you just go with the speed of the speed. Start getting to 7 furlongs, you start worrying about horses fading and horses getting burned out from that early pace. So because of that, I was looking for horses that were a little bit more off the pace. I really liked No K No. And I thought that was a horse that just was really interesting to me. This is for Fausto Gutierrez, who is 28% second off the layoff, which is what No K No is doing. Fausto is also winning 50% of his entries in graded stakes races. That's not a bad thing. Won at this distance before at the 7 furlongs. This horse admittedly is stepping up in class, but I think this horse gets the right trip. And that's something that is intriguing to me. I think this horse will give you a pretty big price as well. So that was one that was interesting to me quite a bit that I think you and I differed a little bit on, but just wanted to highlight No K No there.
Yeah, and one we agreed on, who I was going back and forth on putting on my ticket was number 12, Seal Beach out of the Michael Maker barn with Luis Saez up. When I first went through this race, and I always kind of quote the Complete Handicapper. It's a great tool for people if they want to read, to look at the different classes of races, grade 1s and grade 2s versus grade 3s. And the difference between a grade 1 and 2 and grade 3 is more significant than just one number. And going the opposite of that, your allowances and optional claimers stepping up to grade 3s. And Seal Beach has that sort of, when you're just looking at the types of races he's been running in, they kept him at maiden special weights. They actually bumped him up to 120K where he broke his maiden. Then they tried him on the turf, which was a little puzzling. But then you looked and they moved him to these allowance races, non-winners of 1, which they did have to try 4 or 5 times to try and break that. But the speed figures, as you said last race, going by Brisnet, were just continually improving. And he put a couple 2 together and then had an even bigger one. So if he steps up again, I think his speed figure is definitely within par according to Brisnet. However, in that exact same book regarding grade 3 races, it said it's okay to accept horses that have a speed figure that is near par from an allowance race. However, you want that allowance race to have a fast pace. You want to see that horse survive a particularly fast pace. And the race that Seal Beach did win, the pace wasn't that hot. So that was the one thing where I was kind of going back and forth on, but I decided to leave Seal Beach on my ticket. One of the reasons too is he's 2 for 4 at the distance with a second place as well. So that's what tipped the scale. I see Seal Beach on your ticket.
Yeah, the horse has run a mile before, so it should, the endurance should not be too much of an issue. I do understand, you'd like to see that last pace be maybe a little bit faster. The other thing that I'll just kind of mention is Saez again. So Luis Saez hopped on Seal Beach for the first time last time out. And this is a horse that I don't know if this horse just needs to get ridden hard early to kind of be engaged, but Saez seemed to really take to this horse, or the horse took to Saez,
Hmm.
and now he's back aboard. And if you notice, if you look at the running lines, this was a horse that was sitting more mid-pack, maybe even a little further back, and then trying to make a run late. Saez gets aboard. They're super aggressive out of the gate. They get this horse right up there near the lead, not on the lead, but near the lead, breaking from the far outside last time out as well. Now we're breaking from the far outside again. I think he's going to try to do the exact same thing. So I like that Saez is staying aboard, and his running style, I think, might fit the best possible trip for this horse.
And then we agree on prevalence. Why don't you talk about prevalence and I'll talk about Sibelius?
Yeah, absolutely. So Prevalence is coming back from a layoff. Obviously, last ran in an allowance race at Keeneland at 6.5 furlongs. This is a horse that just has a ton of ability, and is 3 for 4 winning at Gulfstream Park, 2 for 4 winning at this distance. Brendan Walsh, who I talked about in the previous race, is 14% winning off the layoff. This horse has a bullet work last time out that looked phenomenal. The work before that looked really good. Has an interesting turf work on December 7th. I'm not sure what to read into that, but the December 16th and 23rd works look great. When this horse is on his game, he is excellent. He's a grade 3 winner in his own right. And I just have a feeling he's going to really fire this time out. You got Tyler aboard, who always runs well down at Gulfstream. And it's Godolphin owned and bred. That's a name I trust in these sorts of races. So for all those reasons, I just think leaving Prevalence off your ticket would be a really big mistake. And I can afford to include him and still keep it as a $12 ticket.
Yep, and I included him as well. The one thing that piqued my interest in a bad way is being off Lasix going to be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
seems to have a little bit better running style when he's on Lasix.
He did win the grade 3 Commonwealth, though. Now, that was on a sealed track, so you could say that might be part of the reason for it, but that was at least off Lasix when he did get that win. So he's, there might have been another mitigating factor that helped him win that race, but he's at least shown that he can run well and have speed off Lasix.
And then the last horse on my ticket was the 3 Sibelius. I thought you were going to have Sibelius after we talked last night. You're like, oh,
I know. I just faked you out, Colin. Faked you out.
And Sibelius, I think, is the fastest of the fastest in early. And that's kind of going by what Brisnet has for their early pace. And I'll tell you a little story about last week. Spooky Channel, as we talked about on Twitter, knocked me and I can't remember who my guest was last week, but he knocked
Keith last week or not?
No, I don't remember if it was Keith. Knocked us both out, and off a 440-day layoff. And I think it was Keith. And we both said, we're not taking a horse off that type of layoff.
Right.
I always like to go back and look. And I encourage people to go back.
Yep.
When you spend this much time looking at the races, take a minute to go back and go, hey, what did I miss? How would I have gotten to that horse? I still wouldn't have picked him off the 440-day layoff. However, one thing that I did notice on the Brisnet was the average class, and Spooky Channel was much better as far as the back class in that race. And it was a graded race. So in those types of races, you should pay attention to class. And me and Matt are talking in the background about doing a little episode on handicapping and how to pay attention to, because we talk about the foundations and we've brought them up through this whole show: class, pace, form. And when I looked at the Brisnet past performances here, and I'm not paid by Brisnet, I know I throw it out a lot. It's just where my eye goes. Yeah. Sibelius, top on current class, top on average class for the last 3, second on the prime power, top on the early pace last race, and second on off back speed. So to me, when I see a horse that's 1-2 across all of those categories, it's hard for me to not put that horse into my ticket. He also finished second to Bango in his last race. And for me, if you are a tuner in of the lounge, my dog's name was Banjo. So when I see Bango, I always think of my dog Banjo, so we can sound the horn. There's no horn on this show.
No horn. We don't make fun of that. No.
And so Sibelius was last on my ticket. So I went 3-4, 7-12. Anything you had to say about Sibelius?
Maybe it's just because I've been burned by Sibelius before. I really thought he was going to win that Phoenix, that grade 2 Phoenix. That race was kind of set up for him to win, I thought, and didn't do it. very good at that listed stakes race, now going to a grade 3. We'll see. I mean, the Phoenix was the first attempt at a graded stakes race, didn't work out that well. I don't know. This horse threw out 2 huge numbers over the summer at Saratoga and Pimlico and has regressed a little bit since then. So I'm just looking at the regression and wondering, are those 2 races more of an anomaly? And are we going to see just kind of more of a Sibelius that runs underneath rather than a Sibelius that kind of finishes off and wins? So, and I think there's going to be some pace pressure here at 7 furlongs. So we'll see, but a very good horse. You're absolutely right about class. I mean, a very, very good horse with a lot of back class, and no argument there in terms of the quality of the horse at all.
Yeah, the distance was what I had circled as my one concern. The horse I left off my ticket was number 8, Uncle Ernie out of the service bar.
Yeah.
I'm just fearful this horse just goes wire to wire. He had 2 big numbers in his last 2 races. 25% out of 173 races at 7 furlongs at Gulfstream have been won on the wire to wire up front. 2 for 4 at the distance. IRAD's aboard. Those numbers were at Parks. I don't always know what to do with those. I
usually toss them, but that's
me too.
Yeah, no. That's and I say that as a native Pennsylvanian, but I typically do not trust Parks form coming down to Gulfstream Park right away. I'd like to at least see one race down there, and I know Irad being up, early speed. There's a lot to like there with Uncle Ernie, and I like the name too, but I'm also still a little worried about the distance. I know he's done well at 7 furlongs before at Parks, but those were in state restricted races. We'll see. And that's a whole nother type of speed in a grade 3.
Tell the viewers what you have coming up on this Capping the Card this week.
Yeah, so if you want to know more about the Gulfstream Park card, I'll be covering races 1 through 11 for the Saturday at Gulfstream Park. I'll be giving you my top play and my top value pick, which I usually define as 8 to 1 or higher on the morning line. That'll be out on Friday morning. And you can always catch me with Barry Spears and Gina Bacola on This Week in Stable Duel on Friday mornings. We go live at 10 a.m. and go over the best long shot plays for your weekend Stable Duel contests. And you can find that all on my Twitter handle at the handle at Failed to Menace.
Be sure to check them out. Be sure to like and subscribe. I go 1-7-10 in race 7 on Saturday, December 31st. Happy New Year, everybody, by the way. I go 1-7-10 with 3-4-7-12. That'll cost you $12. Matt goes 1-5-10 with 4-7-10-12. It also costs you $12. I think we are both going to hit it this week. Thanks so much, Matt.
Fingers crossed. Always a blast off.